You know the chant, if you follow the Clery boys, you'll get fever in your liver and the fever will never recover.
That was a chant from the glory days of football in Clery, when great footballers strode the little urban village as if their club was a Premier League champion. It was a night of pageantry, glamour and tribute when the legendary Vide Bouteille Cultural Club celebrated its unsung football legends. VBCC is the center pole of the Clery community, and football was the center pole of VBCC. For decades, these bona fide community and national heroes remained overlooked.
Every time we lose one of our icons in our community, everybody asks, where are they now and what did we do for them while they were walking among the living?
The Gala Award ceremony was the brainchild of Ernest James and Robert Black, two Clery boys with deep roots in the community and a shared commitment to the power of football to change lives.
Firstly, I would like to ask you to join me in applauding Mr. Ernest James. And if you don't know who is Mr. Ernest James, we call him APIC, who is the mastermind. He's the mastermind of this event, and who is being ably assisted by his longtime buddy, Mr. Robert Black.
Football is more than just the players, and just single out some administrators for their service, including Mr. Steve the groundskeeper, Fred Charles, Mr. Nicholas aka Lackey, Norman Walcott, Godfrey James, Freddie Joseph, and a host of others. But it was the players who were the stars who shone in daylight. Generation after generation entered the pantheon of Clery legend. The keynote speaker also took his audience on a trip down Clery football's memory lane, immortalizing those still living and those who passed away.
Then came a new era of the 60s and 70s football stars. The likes of Earl Lewis, who I've mentioned, the late Stanley Phillips, Leroy Butcher, Kenny James. Kenny James wasn't just a calypsonian, he also played football in his time. Henry Phillips was more of an administrator, but he gave yeoman service to this community. Edwin Ferdinand, Kendall Glasgow, Dr. Nogo, Walter Downs, Atanas Nicholas. They were the Bosolai brothers. Ali Black, Ali Coco, Subat Simei, Hala, Ovanton Lambert, Lambi, the McIntosh brothers, Dana Carroll. We had a Trinidadian gentleman who played for VBCC, Charlie Brown. And then the new generation of the likes of Steve Black and Anthony Walcott, and likes of John Duncan, Bam Bam. But that's just to name a few. And then we entered the era of the All-Stars. And we had the likes of Charles Sayers and Richie Sayers, and the Quintin brothers, Bage and we call them Bage, David and Tony. And then there were the Shalmine brothers, Dighton, Desmond and Dalkeith. And then Nahum and Macmillan Shalmine. Of course, Skills was too small then, to be playing among big men. So his time coming just now. Then we had the Charles brothers, that is Big Bull, Clinton and Harold. And of course, the world-renowned Vietnamese Baby Cadet. And that's just to name a few from All Stars. Then Clery was a force to reckon with in St. Lucia. When Clery played at the Mindu Philip Park, it was a guaranteed sellout event for the Football Association, or the NFU at that time. You remember, some of you may remember the North Stand. That was the Clery stand, because in those days, Clery fans used to walk down to the Mindu Philip Park and occupy the North Stand. Do you remember the call by Bailey when we were under pressure? Out of there! Out of there! Outside! That was Bailey, man.
Clery football evolved into a Premier League in its glory days.
You had the likes of Hilarion Alfred. And if you don't know who's Hilarion Alfred, that is Big Dean, right? When these guys were in the defense, nobody could pass there because you had Big Dean and you had Dalla, right? Brother Poops, Paulinus Louis, excuse me, who was one of the strikers, and Andrew Amab. I think I spotted something like him here. Andrew. And Robbie Skeet. Yeah, he's not only a top chef. Before he was a top chef, he was a top footballer. George Shalmine, and that's the time now. Skill. And again, Dalkeith Shalmine, and John Brown, and John Lawrenson. And then came the young Turks like Earl Bollock Jean and David Flavius. In those days, we couldn't pay for fancy gear, right? We couldn't even afford the t-shirts. So everybody got some kind of white shirt. And they brought it to Vernon, who had a cousin who was a graphic artist. In those days, graphic artists were not working with laptops and so on. So the brother used to have to draw these things. And so when we came to play there, the fella said, "By the eye dynamite, these are chocolates you'll have on your backs." Unfortunately, we lost friends and players along the way. Do you remember the football prowess and magic of the three little pigs? I don't remember their names. What's it? Mouse, Sword, and I think, and there was another brother. I think he's very famous on television now, Kunta Kinte. Yeah, George Best. Yeah, George Best.
With the coming of a national semi-professional football league, football is more important than ever to the social well-being of St. Lucia. But if you don't know your past, you don't know your future. And VBCC has taken an important first step to ensure that the legends of football's past are not buried beneath the striving for future greatness. If you want to watch the full ceremony, go to Cameron Brown Productions on YouTube, where you will find the entire video. For Choice News Now, I'm Jason Seafley.